I've been working hard for the past several years. One day, suddenly I received a notice of termination despite my dedication to the company. Congratulations, Thomas. You've been selected for workforce reduction. We've hired a top-notch new recruit, so you're being let go. Thanks for your hard work. I stood speechless at the sudden declaration from my manager, Stephen. It's unfortunate, but that's reality. You should regret your foolishness for opposing me. That's good. He was taken aback by my response and stopped speaking, but soon he regained his composure and flashed that nasty smug grin. No matter how tough you talk, you're still fired. Pack your things and leave. He walked away laughing loudly, but he truly understood the meaning of my words. The next day, my name is Thomas. I've been working at Patrick Manufacturing, which makes industrial machinery, for 20 years. Before I knew it, I had become 43 years old, focusing solely on my work and working tirelessly. Even though I've been around for a long time, I'm still a regular employee without any position. That's because I love tinkering with machines more than anything and wanted to stay on the production floor forever. There were several opportunities for promotion, but I always explained my situation and had the promotion deferred. For me, having the environment to freely create machines was more important than the salary. However, such happy days came to an abrupt end yesterday. Despite my 20 years of dedicated service, I was suddenly given a termination notice. Looking back, Stephen becoming my supervisor was the direct cause. All my previous supervisors were hardworking and respectable mentors. They would cover for my mistakes and collaborate with other departments to solve problems when consulted. Such a culture allowed Patrick Manufacturing to gain a certain level of trust in the industry despite being a small company. But that changed when the CEO was replaced and his nephew Stephen was transferred here. I won't tolerate the lax atmosphere of this workplace. From now on, every employee must give their all to achieve results, Stephen declared abruptly in his first address. At first, we employees were confused but tried to accept his demands. Needless to say, everyone at the factory has been passionate about machine manufacturing. Without being told, we were already trying our best to get the job done. But Stephen, without understanding the situation on the ground, kept demanding higher sales without any concrete instructions. We were constantly reprimanded, and I finally decided to speak directly to him. Stephen, everyone is doing their best every day, but if you ask us to improve our performance without specific directions, we don't understand how. If you guys working on the ground don't understand, how should I know? Mr. Patrick boasted that you are excellent employees. If you're so talented, you should be able to figure it out without my instructions. No matter how hard I tried to communicate, he was always like this, making conversation impossible. Through persistent discussions, I realized that he was completely inexperienced. It seems Mr. Patrick called his nephew, who had been drifting from job to job in various industries, to give him a position out of pity. I gave up on expecting concrete instructions from Stephen, but he held a grudge against me for embarrassing him in the meeting and resented me persistently afterward. I heard you're in your 40s, Thomas. In other companies, you'd be considered a mid-level employee. Why are you still a regular employee here? Stephen sneered. I enjoy working on the production floor and wish to continue here until the end. No need for such excuses. In other words, you're incompetent. We don't need incompetent employees here, but do your best to work hard. Whenever we crossed paths, he would make sarcastic remarks and complain. Gradually, his sarcasm wasn't just directed at me but also at Amanda, my right-hand woman. She is a younger woman in her 30s with exceptional skills and a great sense for the work. That's why I always included her in my product development, but Stephen mocked her for it. This company has generous benefits, Thomas. Even as a babysitter assigned to him, he laughed, comparing me and Amanda. Seeing him laugh, I almost retorted. I could ignore insults directed at me, but involving other employees was different. However, it was Amanda herself who held me back. I know how capable you are. No matter what anyone says, we just need to prove ourselves through our work, she said with a smile that always cheered everyone up and helped ease my tension. This is how we managed to continue our daily work despite the troublesome presence of Stephen. However, over time, his behavior became even more unbearable. It became the norm for him to leave work on time while pushing his tasks onto his subordinates. Although we employees covered his work, he never showed any gratitude or appreciation. Moreover, when employees applied for paid leave, he would reject it with unreasonable excuses like being too busy or coinciding with his own leave. Realizing that this was unsustainable, we decided to directly complain to Mr. Patrick about him. We believed that only he, being a relative, could change Stephen's attitude, but the result was a complete failure. Instead of reprimanding Stephen, I was the one who got scolded. "You've been with this company for 20 years, haven't you? It's your role to support Stephen, yet you complain without making any effort. From now on, devote yourself more to assisting him." Hearing this directly from the CEO made me utterly disillusioned with the company. Since then, Stephen has been subjecting me to various petty harassments. I've been working on developing a machine that assembles parts for about 5 years. I named it Fabs, combining fabrication and fabulous to represent the joy of creation. Fabs was designed to handle large and heavy parts accurately, automating a wide range of assembly tasks. Once completed, it would replace manual insertion processes, significantly reducing work time and stabilizing quality. For the past year, we focused on finalizing the product based on the prototype, but one day, the prototype was found destroyed. When I arrived at work that day, I was shocked to see the prototype forcibly toppled and in pieces. The prototype was quite large and was securely fixed to prevent such damage, but it was destroyed. It was designed to withstand being easily knocked over, but now it appeared as if it had taken a severe hit, with one side severely dented. As I stood there in shock, Stephen approached, pretending to be passing by, and sneered at me. "Oh, is that the toy you were making, Thomas?" "Sorry, I bumped into it and it fell over. But isn't it good that we found out its weakness before it was commercialized?" "You should be thanking me," he said, lying through his teeth. He walked away, laughing loudly. "There's no way it would fall just from a bump. It was designed to withstand repeated shaking." Even though I knew it was his doing, without any proof of his deliberate act, I couldn't report it anywhere. Swallowing my frustration, I began repairing the prototype. Fortunately, most of the internal circuitry was intact, and within a few days, the prototype was restored. Since then, I made sure to lock the room where the prototype was kept whenever I left. Previously, the development room was always open so that anyone in the company could freely observe it. The low barriers for exchanging opinions across positions and departments were a strong point of this company, but from that day, such enjoyment became a thing of the past. Besides this incident, Stephen continued to harass me by shredding documents I created and piling an excessive amount of paperwork solely on me. Additionally, he would answer calls intended for me and delete data I was responsible for without permission, taking his harassment to new levels. Despite this, I stayed at the company because I had a strong resolve not to leave until Fabs was officially launched. I believed that once Fabs was released, it could bring about a small revolution in the manufacturing industry, which was suffering from a labor shortage. Holding on to this belief, I endured Stephen's daily provocations and immersed myself in product development. In the midst of these trying days, a turning point finally arrived. One day, an envelope was delivered to my desk. It was an invitation to the world's largest technology and manufacturing exhibition. This exhibition was a platform to showcase the latest manufacturing and implementation technologies in electronics, attracting related industries from both domestic and international companies, such as electronics, semiconductors, and automotive parts manufacturers. I had applied to present Fabs, which I had been developing for 5 years, at this event. Now everyone will see how amazing Fabs is, I thought. I prepared day and night for the exhibition, fine-tuning Fabs and getting ready for the presentation. On the day of the exhibition, the venue was filled with industry experts and media representatives. Finally, it was time to present Fabs. As the presentation time approached, I felt a thrilling excitement like never before. But just 5 minutes before the start, I was suddenly called out by the event organizers. "Thomas, we're sorry, but Stephen will be presenting instead of you." "What? Stephen?" I was bewildered. While I was trying to process this, Stephen walked past me with my presentation materials and took the stage. He then began presenting the content I was supposed to present with a self-satisfied look on his face. What is going on? I prepared everything, the demo files for Fabs, the PR videos, everything was made by me, I thought next to me. Amanda was also trembling at the sight before us. "This is terrible. I can't believe it. He has stolen all of your work, Thomas. Fabs is my creation. I built it from scratch and finally brought it to completion." After the presentation, Stephen, completely satisfied, approached us as we stood there in shock. "Stephen, what is the meaning of this? What's the problem? It's obvious it's better for a department head like me to explain than a regular employee like you. Don't you understand that it increases the chances of successful deals?" he retorted, showing no remorse whatsoever. Unable to hold back, I finally let go of my usual resignation and protested. "But Fabs is my invention. You don't even understand the content of the materials you just read, do you? The employee who understands the product should be the one presenting. You just don't get it, do you? Besides, I got permission from Mr. Patrick to present this machine. Are you going to go against his decision?" Seeing the smug look on his face, I realized that arguing further was pointless. He must have been waiting for an opportunity to embarrass me for a long time. When I reacted to him destroying the prototype, he probably figured out that Fabs was the most important thing to me. He had undoubtedly arranged everything in advance with Mr. Patrick to take Fabs away from me. But being told it was the CEO's decision, there was nothing more a regular employee like me could do. As I stood there swallowing my frustration, Stephen patted me on the shoulder and walked away with a gleeful look. "Well, since there's nothing more to discuss, I'll take my leave. I have to handle the inquiries and orders for that machine." As expected, Fabs was welcomed with open arms by the industry. Stephen had stolen my product and, as a result, gained significant recognition and fame. Seeing Stephen and Mr. Patrick reveling in their success, I finally made up my mind. The most shocking news came the day after the exhibition. Today, remembering the humiliating events of the previous day, I went to work as usual. However, my desk was completely empty. All the research I had accumulated over the years and the meticulously gathered documents were gone. What is going on here? I don't know. I have no idea. When I came in this morning, it was already like this, Amanda said. I asked my other colleagues, but everyone just shook their heads, clueless. After searching the department, we found that everything from my desk had been stuffed into garbage bags and left in a storage room. Who would do something like this? Amanda muttered in shock, and everyone thought of the same person at that moment. Thomas, what are you doing over there? Stephen appeared, grinning smugly, clearly in high spirits. He glanced at me holding the garbage bags and snorted derisively. Rummaging through trash early in the morning? You've really hit rock bottom, haven't you? My belongings were thrown away. Do you know anything about it, Stephen? Oh, that? It was all unnecessary, so I took care of it last night. You should be thanking me. He casually admitted it was his doing, leaving me speechless as I struggled to find a response. He smiled and dropped a bombshell. Congratulations, Thomas. You've been selected for workforce reduction. We're hiring a top-tier new graduate starting tomorrow, so you're fired. I was stunned by the sudden announcement. He continued, enjoying himself. The new hire is Mr. Patrick's son. He's a young, college-educated employee, totally different from an eternal regular employee like you. The machine you made, Fabs or whatever, is finished, right? That means you're no longer needed by the company. The new hire will use your desk starting tomorrow, so clear it out and leave today. In other words, you're fired. I've worked diligently for 20 years, and now you're telling me to leave by the end of today? His grin widened even more at my response. That's what I've been saying. A regular employee can't even understand when they're being fired. Listen, Thomas, you're fired. It's unfortunate, but that's reality. You should regret the foolishness of opposing me. That's good. He was taken aback and stopped talking. What did you just say? I said that's good, Stephen. Can't you understand my response? This company may be what it is now, but I've been here for 20 years. I was hesitant to submit my resignation, but since you fired me for the company's convenience, it's a different story. Now I can leave this company proudly. Hearing my words, Stephen stood there dumbfounded for a moment, but soon he shook his head, regaining his composure, and that nasty smug grin returned to his face. Is this the howl of a loser? No matter how much you pretend to be tough, you're still fired. Pack your things and leave. I will. And by the way, I'll be taking all the unpaid vacation days I've accrued. For a lowly employee, you sure know how to use your head. Take as many days off as you want. With that, he laughed loudly and walked away. I gathered my necessary belongings and left the company. After 20 years of commuting every day, rain or shine, it ended rather abruptly. Thinking about this, I slept in late the next day, forgetting all my past fatigue. But when I woke up and saw my phone screen by my pillow, I blinked in surprise. What is with all these missed calls? There were dozens of missed calls from the workplace I had just left. They must have been calling nonstop since the start of the workday. As I sighed at the long list of missed calls, another call came in. I was tempted to ignore it, but the constant ringing was draining the battery, and it was annoying. I realized that if the calls continued like this, I wouldn't be able to use my phone properly, so reluctantly, I decided to answer. Hello, this is Thomas. Finally. How long were you going to keep me waiting? The workplace is in chaos. Get here immediately. The person yelling was, of course, Stephen. Without waiting for my response, he started babbling about the situation. According to him, when he arrived at work this morning, there were no employees present. When no one showed up at the start of the workday, Stephen began calling each employee, only to find out that everyone had resigned. Shocked, he visited the CEO's office but found only a pale-faced Mr. Patrick, with his secretary nowhere to be found. After you left yesterday, all the employees came to submit their resignations. They all said they would leave in a month and use their remaining vacation days during that month. I thought it was a joke and ignored it, but no one showed up today. I only fired Thomas. Why did the other employees resign too? Stephen was at a loss, and Mr. Patrick had no answers either. Gradually, Stephen's face turned red with panic. This means there's no one to do the handover. The company is in serious trouble. I told them the same thing, but they insisted it was according to the rules and no one would come back. Did they really have that many vacation days left? And taking a month's worth of vacation is incredibly unprofessional. His rant continued, and then he started berating me over the phone. You mentioned taking your vacation days yesterday, right? This company's employees have no sense. Taking vacation days when you're fired, and for a whole month no less. This is fraud. There's nothing unusual about it, I replied, completely exasperated. I explained the vacation policy to him. In this company, employees earn 20 days of paid leave each year. Additionally, for this particular year, they can carry over unused days to the next year. Thus, employees could accumulate up to 40 days of paid leave if they choose to. Ever since you came, you've been denying our vacation requests for various reasons, so everyone carried over their unused vacation days. This is just karma for what you've done to us. No way, his weak voice was clear even over the phone. But then he snapped back to reality and raised his voice again. All right, I'll give up on the other employees, but you must convince Amanda, who worked with you, to stay. What? Why just her? She knows all the ins and outs of your complicated work. After firing you, I planned to have her take over your tasks, but now she's left too. My plan is ruined. That's unfortunate, I suppressed the urge to laugh. Actually, after leaving the company yesterday, I met up with Amanda. I submitted my resignation to Mr. Patrick as well, she said, smiling brightly as she followed me out. Are you sure about this? Absolutely. A company that makes such poor decisions isn't worth staying at. When I told him I was resigning, he mocked me, saying they wouldn't miss 1 or 2 employees like me. She started laughing heartily. Mr. Patrick and Stephen are going to be in for a shock tomorrow. It's not just 1 or 2 employees, the entire staff is quitting. I wish I could see Stephen's face when he finds out. Yes, this mass resignation was our plan all along. Everyone had been fed up with Stephen's antics and Mr. Patrick's failure to stop him. We had been planning to leave the company, and the incident with Stephen hijacking my presentation at the exhibition was the final straw. After that, Amanda and I joined our other resigned colleagues and celebrated with some delicious drinks. As I recalled the events of yesterday, I heard Stephen's weak voice on the phone. If it comes to this, even you will do. Come to the office immediately. The phones have been ringing non-stop with inquiries, and we can't keep up. I was fired by you, Stephen. I can't come to your company, I replied firmly and ended the call. As I hung up, I could still hear his pleading voice, but I had no more ties to that company. Stephen continued to call me intermittently, however, I never answered, and the calls gradually decreased, eventually stopping completely after a week. He must have been too busy dealing with the company to keep calling me. I enjoyed my newfound peaceful life for a while. Later, I heard that the company went through a tough time. Even when they received inquiries, only Stephen and Mr. Patrick were there to handle them, which led to many misunderstandings. Eventually, a defect was found in the fabs presented at the exhibition, and the company received numerous complaints. Without me, who had developed it, Stephen was at a loss. He couldn't answer questions about repair schedules or future prospects, angering the clients. Meanwhile, I continued to walk my usual commute route. As I passed my former company, Stephen spotted me and rushed over, sweating profusely. You're finally here. I knew you would come, Thomas. Now fix that fabs machine. The clients are furious, he cried, half clinging to me. But I shook off his hand nonchalantly. You must be mistaken. I was fired from Patrick Manufacturing. Then why are you here? I'm on my way to my new company. From now on, I'll be working at Thomas Engineering, my new startup. Stephen was stunned, his eyes wide, and he turned pale, collapsing to the ground. He tried to say something, but I ignored him and headed to my new office across from Patrick Manufacturing. I had always wanted to have my own company, a place where I could freely create machines, a dream come true. With like-minded colleagues, I wanted to create products that could compete globally. As I shared my vision, my coworkers supported my plan. What started as a dream became more serious as Stephen worsened the work environment. We gradually prepared for the startup, and I had intended to stay at Patrick Manufacturing until the launch of Fabs out of loyalty, but the betrayal at the exhibition by Stephen and Mr. Patrick sealed my decision to leave. In my new office, I looked out the shiny windows. Inside, the data Stephen presented at the exhibition included bugs from before the revisions. I had the correct data and fixed parts ready for the real presentation. If he had apologized, I might have given him the revised data, but that's impossible now. I turned to see Amanda standing there with a cup of coffee. Behind me, my former colleagues were smiling warmly. Everyone who had submitted their resignations had joined my new company. I looked around at the familiar faces, all reliable friends. Let's work together and give it our all. I look forward to working with you. Encouraged by my words, my colleagues responded with bright, beaming smiles. After that, we worked together to develop the improved version of Fabs. We addressed the previous issues and launched the final product online. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and seeing this, Stephen reportedly collapsed to the floor in despair, saying, "This is the end for our company." Just as he predicted, the old company stopped receiving new orders. Everyone preferred the improved version from my new company. Nobody wanted to buy the problematic old product. Stephen only received repair requests, but he couldn't handle them and was soon swamped with refund demands. Shortly after, the company went bankrupt. The elite newcomer, Mr. Patrick's son, had long since fled and was working in an unrelated company. Meanwhile, Mr. Patrick and Stephen ended up with massive debts and eventually filed for bankruptcy. After that, they tried to find new jobs, but Stephen, having never worked properly, was not hired anywhere for long. The other day, Amanda confided in me with a serious expression. Actually, the other day, I saw a soup kitchen in a park in a neighboring city for people in need. Among them, I think I saw someone who looked a lot like Mr. Patrick and Stephen. If it really was them, their fate is tragic, but it's certain that they are reaping the consequences of their actions. Since then, my company has been steadily growing. We've been continuously improving, incorporating customer feedback to make the machine more versatile with interchangeable attachments. I intend to keep cherishing the feelings of my employees and our gratitude towards our customers. And my relationship with Amanda has also blossomed. I'll always stay by your side. I want to watch the company grow alongside you, she said. It's been a year since she confessed her feelings, and we started dating. Next month, we're getting married. I want to continue building a vibrant workplace with Amanda, who understands me better than anyone else. Hand in hand with her, I step into a new future.